Melton, out of Asheville, North Carolina, has always been inspired by food and the love that is created when sharing dishes with family and friends. As a dedicated chef for over 20 years and the business owner of Blessed to Cook, Deva's culinary career brings experience and depth to her cooking. This year brought many exciting opportunities. Deva is a collaborator and chef with Everyday Gourmet Catering, which will be providing the space for tonight's event. As a line cook for the renowned Root Down food truck, Deva had the opportunity to compete in the Asheville Food Truck Showdown on the Food Network against celebrity chef Robert Irvine. You can catch that episode on Dinner Impossible, Season 10, Episode 3. Her newest culinary adventure will take her to St. Croix as a visiting sous chef for Tropical Dance Vacations. All of her menus have been designed with simple cooking techniques utilizing everyday kitchen equipment to create delicious and healthy food quickly and easily. Enjoy.
All right. So we're going to get started tonight with, first we're going to turn on our pan over here, start heating up our stock. And the stock is going to be for our grits. So we're going to put that in the pan. We basically want to bring that up to a simmer before we add the grits. And so that's going to do its thing while we prep a couple of other things. All right, so first we're going to start with the pecans or pecans, depending on where you're from. I'm a pecan girl because I'm from Eastern North Carolina. And we're going to start by separating the yolk from the white. So we want the white, we do not want the yolk. We're going to crack your egg. I prefer to use room temperature eggs. They seem to whisk a little bit better than super cold eggs. And then we're going to take our yolk and put that out of the way. And you're going to take your whisk. You can see the yolk in there. And you're just going to start whisking that up until it gets a little bit frothy. Frothy meaning it just looks like it's got some air in it. That's what we're doing at this point. At that point, you're going to add your sugar and your spices. We've got some salt, a little bit of chili powder, and cinnamon. And you're going to whisk that around a couple of seconds here. And this is your sugar mixture that is going to coat your pecans for your salad. So we're kind of starting off with salad. We're going to be jumping around quite a bit. So good thing this is recorded. Welcome to my brain and how it works on every single day. All right. So basically you want to keep whisking that until it's starting to thicken up. You can tell it's just getting there. This recipe is really easy to double if you needed to do more nuts. We're definitely going to prep more than you're going to need for the salad, but they're great stored in an airtight container, anywhere from 7 to 14 days to munch on at other times. All right, that looks good. So once you kind of got a little bit of thickness to your egg and sugar mixture, you're all set. All right, so we are going to now pour in the pecans. And we're going to coat those really well with the spatula. So I have already preheated my oven to 325. If you've read the recipes, you're going to notice that we're going to bump up that temperature to 375 once these are all prepared, because if you roast them too hot, they're going to burn. So my pan spray. I'm going to spray our pan and pour the pecans out onto the sheet tray. And then you're going to spread them out into an even layer. And we're going to place those in our preheated oven, which is set at 325. And the rest will do oven's going to do the rest of the work for you. So it's all set. Pop that in the oven. Double check that we're at 325, and I've already got my handy Timer here, already set for 20 minutes. We're gonna push start and move into more salad prep and also a little bit of prep for the roasted pepper sauce. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna roast some garlic. So you take a whole bowl of garlic, turn it over on its side, and we're gonna cut the base off. So where all the cloves are showing like so, you peel off this extra skin. And then we're going to place it into the aluminum foil, drizzle a little bit of olive oil, and then we're gonna make a little package. And when I'm cooking at home, and actually at work as well, I'm a big fan of utilizing sheet pans. Let's see, my stock is boiling, so we're gonna turn that down just a bit. And if you can do two things on one pan, you're winning. So that's what we're gonna do. We are going to roast the garlic. We're also gonna roast our beets for our salad. So with beets, it can be an intimidating ingredient to some, but I find it super easy if you just know what to do. So basically, you don't have to peel these. We're gonna cut the base off. And you're also gonna cut off the top. I'm a big believer also in making sure when I'm chopping that I have a nice sturdy base to use to keep my fingers intact, because that's a good thing. So basically we're gonna cut that in half. Because we're only gonna roast this for like 20 minutes, we're gonna want to do smaller pieces. So these pieces here will be nice and tender and caramelized in about 20 minutes. So we're gonna put those on the pan as well. And I've got a variety here. I have a golden beet, and I also have a purple beet, which will add lots of wonderful color. Another tip is, if I'm gonna make something, why not cut up 2 other beets? And then I've got some beets in the fridge for later down the road. So that's another good tip to think about when you're cooking, is how you can do several things at once to kind of set yourself up for success a little bit later. All right, so we've got get this beet juice out of here. Got our beets, we've got our garlic. We're gonna do a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and some olive oil. And we're gonna toss this together. I'll just use my fingers. You just have to excuse them, they're probably gonna be a little bit red for the rest of the class. That's okay. And again, you want a nice even layer. Very good. So we've got our beets, we've got our garlic. We're gonna put those in the oven to work with pecans. All right. Tidy space always equals a less stressed chef. So just tidy up after yourself. And we're gonna move into our grits. So let's see if you can see that a little bit. Yeah, we've got a nice simmer here with the grits. We've got 3 cups of stock. I always have a little bit of extra stock on the side because no matter what, it needs it. So I've got 3 cups there, and I have like another cup down below, but the good news is most stocks come in a quart container, so you have that anyway. And we are going to whisk in the grits. So when you are cooking grits, you just want to whisk continuously as you're adding them, because they will begin to clump pretty easily. Turn up my heat just a bit. And this helps to keep the lumps out. And a lot of people have a lot of opinions about polenta. Polenta is cornmeal, and of course, some polenta is made with a much finer cornmeal. And I just find grits to be a little bit more forgiving for the beginning cook, to have like a nice creamy consistency versus lumpy. And also, the finer the cornmeal, you really have to be very specific with your cooking time, because otherwise it's going to turn into glue. It's very gluey. So we're going to play smart and we're going to play safe. And we have a stone ground grits that has been pretty well. Let's see if I can get that in there for you. Yeah, that's good. And everything's nice and incorporated there. And we're going to leave it alone. So grits take between 15, 20 minutes or so, and you're going to want to turn your heat down to a medium low and just let it do its thing. And then you're going to stir every once in a while to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom. If you notice that they're cooking a little bit faster than you would like, just add a little bit more stock and take control of it, because that's another thing with cooking. When there's a lot of things going on at one time, it's easy to get like, oh, you know, but it's like, actually, we're in control of all the process. Just take your time. If it burns, pour it out, start over. It's very forgiving and it's very rewarding too. So anyway, that's another in my whole process. All right, so we've got our grits going. We have our roasted garlic going, our beets and our pecans, and next we are going to prep our salmon. So this is what I was talking about earlier, the sheet pan meal. This is your weekday best friend, when you can put your protein, nicely flavored with your vegetables, all in the same sheet pan, one dish. It's delicious and quick. So we're going to start off with making the crust for our salmon. So we've got about 1.5 cups of crispy fried onions. We're going to put that in a bowl. We have 4 tablespoons of butter and 4 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. We're going to put that in the bowl. I have 2 pieces of salmon, and they are about, I don't know, 6 or 7 ounces each. Again, that's kind of a preference thing with what you're into. I can hear my grits over here. They've already started to absorb more liquid than they should at the time that they've been cooking. So I'm going to get my stock, which is right here. Just add a little bit more stock. And that's all you have to do. I would start adding maybe like 1/2 cup at a time, because that's another thing. Once you go too far, you can't go back. So now it's happy. It's not bubbling too heavily. All right, so I'm going to put a glove on for this, and you can feel free to use your fingers, whatever you like to do in your kitchen. So we've got our mustard, we have our butter, we have our French fried onions, and you're just going to start mixing that together like so. And until everything is nice and incorporated, and you can hear it. I'm kind of crunching up the French fried onions as I am mixing it. I'll give you another tip. If you wanted to make this gluten-free without the French fried onions, instead of French fried onions, you could use chopped cashews, sliced almonds. And because we are in an age of a lot of dietary requirements being met in a very positive way in the grocery stores, they actually have gluten-free French fried onions as well, and breadcrumbs and all that good stuff. So again, this is just kind of a baseline idea. And we are going to put a little bit of olive oil on the tops of our salmon. Like so. A little bit of salt. A little pepper. This is where you can get creative. You could put fresh dill. You could put a little bit of Old Bay. Really any kind of fresh herb would be delicious on the salmon. And then you're going to divide this up evenly and put it on the top and just kind of get it as evenly as possible. Just kind of mashing gently. So, and I can smell the pecans. They are doing their work in the oven. It's a nice smell for the house. They also are great gift ideas. If you just did those, maybe add some nice dried fruit, something like that. You could little bags any time of the year. Okay, so that's our prep salmon. So with that, we're going to use this pan to prep the rest of our sheet pan meal. We've got asparagus going on. And I cut it down where the tips get a little bit woody. You don't necessarily want to use that part. And we're going to spread the asparagus out onto our sheet tray. And we're going to go with olive oil, with salt and pepper. Super simple. And that's that. So now we're going to put that prep salmon. You know what? It's telling me. Because otherwise. Oh. So at this point, you are having lots of people over for dinner. It's no big deal. You just fix it. You were having lots of people over for dinner. You could take this pan and put it in the refrigerator and be done with it. You can have like 8 pieces of salmon over vegetables in the fridge up for 24 hours. And then your prep is done. And then actually bring it out of the fridge for about 10 minutes and then put it in the oven and your dinner is all set. So that's another little pro tip there of how to prep ahead when you've got lots of people coming to the house through the holidays. All right. Here. Okay, so we have our salmon here on our roasted or our asparagus, and we're gonna roast that in just a bit. We're gonna wait maybe like 5 more minutes or so everything's coming out of the oven at the same time, and we are plating it at the same time. So I'm gonna slide that back onto my rack over here, tidy up my space. All right. Check on the polenta. Starting to absorb liquid. I don't think I'm going to add any more at this point. Give that a stir. All right, so next we're going to prep our dessert. This dessert also can be done in lots of different ways for lots of different dietary needs. As you can see, I've actually been a retreat chef most of my career. And so dealing with retreats, you have lots of different people coming in, everyone needs to feel comfortable. And so there's a lot of work in making sure of that through providing food for people's dietary needs. And one thing that I've always found very helpful is to focus on what you can have versus what the restrictions are, because that always makes your job a lot easier and kind of puts a positive spin on the way food can be presented. So, all right, so our dessert tonight is a oat and brown sugar stuffed pear. And it's got a cinnamon drizzle that we're gonna put at the end with toasted hazelnuts. So the prep begins. You can use pears, apples, plums, peaches, whatever is in season, this will work. And it is a delicious trick to have up your sleeve. So what you're gonna do first is you're gonna cut your pears in half. Another great dish too to make and put in the fridge and bake for later. So it's like, you get to enjoy your guests because all the food's all set and ready to go. All right, so we have our pears cut in half. I use this tool, it's a little mini scoop, but you can also use a melon baller. You could use a knife, that would get interesting. I would prefer you use a scoop or a melon baller, just to make sure everyone's hands stay safe. All right, so you're gonna use that and you're gonna scoop out the middle, just like so. We're gonna place that in our greased pan that already has the water that's in the recipe. This water could be replaced with apple juice, orange juice, who knows, champagne, like whatever you enjoy can be put into this pan to make your pan sauce that's gonna make itself in the oven. But just make sure it's greased and it has at least 3/4 to a cup of liquid with, and I put a little cinnamon in there, so you can just make it your own. So we're gonna put our prepped pears in like so. I smell things in the oven. I'm just gonna take a look. Oh yeah. Everything's behaving. We have 4 minutes left on our timer. It's gonna be perfect timing. Okay, so we're going to scoop all of these out. That's all set. Put this to the side. And then basically you're gonna just take a small bowl. You're gonna add your oats. You can get gluten-free oats if you like. We're gonna add your brown sugar. You could use coconut sugar if you like to make it a little more healthier. We are going to add a pinch of salt and a little bit of cinnamon to the bowl. We are going to add an egg. Could be omitted, but I like it because it kind of gives it a crunchy texture to the finished product. And I have 4 tablespoons of butter. Earth Balance, dairy-free butter, coconut oil, any of those things will work for this. So we're gonna put that in there, like so. And I'm gonna shake a few hazelnuts in there. If you have the recipes, make a note on that. I'm not so sure that I suggested to put hazelnuts inside. I was gonna use it more as a garnish. So this is another place you can make it your own. If you're not into hazelnuts, you can use any nut. So all of those work. All right, so another trusty glove. And again, same technique as the salmon. We're just gonna crumble it up with our fingers until it's nice and combined. And then we're gonna evenly distribute into our pears. We're gonna cover it. Then we're gonna crank up that temperature to 375 because our pecans only have 2 more minutes. And we get to crank up the oven for the rest of our food. All right. Grits are looking good. They are starting to absorb a little bit more liquid. I may add a bit more stock just to buy some time. And there we are. So we've got a nice, almost like clumps together. That's what you're looking for. And then we're just gonna put a little bit into each pear, like so. And all right, so that's that. I have a trash can over there. I'm not just throwing things on the floor. Okay, so here we are. We have our prepped pears and they are ready to go in the oven. All right. So, any questions? Anything coming up for anybody? So I'm going to put these to the side along with an orange because I had one in the kitchen and we're going to use this at the very end to garnish. If you would like to do that, you certainly can. You just need to add that to the recipe so you remember. Here.
David, is it better to use metal or non-metal bowls? Preference?
I prefer metal personally, only because I work in commercial kitchens, and so we don't do a lot of glass, obviously, for reasons of safety. So yeah, it's personal preference. At home, I probably use more glass. I like the look of glass a little bit better, but as far as like safety and food, I think you're pretty safe either way. Yeah. All right, so our pecans, deliciously browned, smelling nice and nutty, cinnamony and sugary. We're going to put those to the side. They need to cool completely to get the texture perfect. They'll be nice and crunchy. So like I promised, we're going to kind of the oven to 375. I'm also going to bring out our beets. Maybe a few more minutes on those. They're not quite tender. I can just now start to smell the garlic as well. So they still have a few more minutes to do their thing. We'll put our pears in and our salmon. So the salmon is also going into the oven at this point at 375. Okay. So tidy up the space. And I'm going to take another look at our grits here. So what's happening is they're looking good. I'm actually going to taste them a little bit. So at this point, you can taste them. And if there is a little crunch, you probably want to add a little bit more stock. Every grit cooks differently. All polenta cooks differently. So, you know, it's going to do its thing. And this is a good point in the game to try it and see where we're at. So, we're going to add a little bit more stock. I'll have that handy. Note to also make sure you're getting the sides as you're making this. Some people at this point might prefer like a heat-proof spatula. But I know too, you know, whisking like aluminum pans and things like that, just depending on where you are in your food safety, lots of room to make it your own in that way. So, all right, so we've got that going. Okay, at this point, we are going to work on our sauce for our salmon. So I have a pretty large vessel here because we're going to use a hand mixer. If you don't have a hand mixer, another good option for this would be a blender. All of your ingredients are going to be cold. So that way blenders are great for cold ingredients. I don't know if you've ever tried to make a hot sauce to blend it while it's hot. You probably had a volcanic eruption in your kitchen. So I like to do things while it's still cool and then heat up the sauce. And so that's what we're going to do.
Dave, I'm going to ask, do you recommend using foil over what goes in the oven? Since both trays were uncovered, does it affect the cooking outcome if you cover them?
It does. So the pecans, and listen, I said pecans, it's pecan. The pecans and the beets, we wanted that to be uncovered because we want color. We want color on that. We want there to be caramelization happening on the beets, and that's why you would leave that uncovered. When you cover something like we did the pears, it's only because they have a longer cooking time, and that's going to help keep the moisture in so that the pears are nice and tender. And we're going to actually keep them covered for like 25 minutes, and then we're going to uncover for the final cooking time. Because I realized I only had an hour, I do have a little bit of a cheat, and I made another recipe earlier tonight so we can all plate together. But if you're cooking with me at home, just know that your dessert's going to take a little bit longer than the hour that we have. But that's noted in the recipe. So that's that. All right. So here we are. Let me check one thing. I'm actually happy with the beets. I'm going to take them out because see, they're starting to kind of sizzle. Starting to kind of sizzle on the edges, and they are just tender enough that they kind of bend a bit when you bend them. So that's a good sign. And this here. Okay, so for the sauce, you can feel free to roast peppers all day long in your kitchen. I buy them in a jar. They're beautifully done and delicious. So we're going to put our roasted peppers. And we're gonna put a cup of heavy cream. This could also be a non-dairy version if you prefer. That one was in there. We're gonna juice a half a lemon. I like this recipe because, you know, you have kind of the salty and the brine of the peppers, and then you've got the cream and the dairy with the heavy cream, and then we're gonna add a little bit of acid to kind of make all those flavors pop. We're not gonna cook this very long. When you're using fresh lemon juice, looking for the pop, you definitely wanna add that towards the end. But because we're not gonna cook it very long, it's safe to say we're gonna put it in right away. Yeah, so our garlic is all set. This is a beautiful thing right here. So all the garlic is browned. We have a delicious garlic oil as well left in our aluminum foil here that we're gonna put into our sauce. And then if you need to cool this, great. I burned off all the feeling in my fingertips like 10 years ago. So I would suggest cooling this for just a bit. And then you're gonna press it from the top, and the cloves are just gonna come right out, like so. And that's hot, but it's not too hot, but just be careful when you do that. You can always actually roast tons of garlic and then keep it in the fridge and pop it out whenever you need it. And then you just have roasted garlic all the time, which is always a good thing if you're into garlic. Here. Okay, so we have all the components of our sauce. We're gonna add a little bit of salt. And we're gonna add a little bit of pepper. Like so. And then we're gonna use our handy dandy hand mixer. It has the whisk, or not the whisk, but the grinding attachment to it. I'm sure there's a more professional name for that. And we're just gonna whisk it up. Takes a little bit of time. You want to make sure it doesn't have any lumps. Everything's nice and well combined. If you turn it to the side, you can have a little bit more depth to the liquid. Since we're not making a lot of sauce. And look at that color. Oh, it's just beautiful. You're gonna see it a little better once I put it into the saucepan. So we're gonna taste the sauce and see where we're at with that. Again, super easy, just a couple of ingredients and you can have a cream sauce in your home. Delicious. It's garlicky, but I like it. I get a little bit more of a blend on that.
So David, is there an alternative to the emulsifier if you don't have a tool like that?
Do you have a blender? A blender would be the second guess for sure, or the second choice. An immersion blender or a Vitamix, anything like that. Otherwise, what you could do is you could just fine chop the roasted peppers and add it to the cream. Let's see what they said.
Thanks.
Okay, good. So you've got one of those. Okay, great. But you could like super chop up the roasted peppers and then kind of, this is a good trick. You take that roasted garlic, I actually have some right here. And easily can make like this paste for sandwiches and such. So if you don't have a blender and you want to make sure that this is well combined, you just take the back of your knife and hit it on the garlic like so. And it just creams out just like that. Endless things you can do with that. It's really, really delicious. Get rid of that now though. That's another show. We'll talk about roasted garlic and what we can do with that. All right, so we've got our roasted pepper and garlic cream sauce. And I want to turn it like this because I want you to see this color. This beautiful red color. And yum. So that's that. and you put it into your saucepan, and you're gonna heat this up on a medium low because, you know, heavy cream can scald, that kind of thing pretty quickly. And you just want to keep this nice and not scald. All right. So our grits, we're gonna share the space. The grits are gonna come off. We're gonna put our roasted pepper sauce on, and we're gonna finish off our grits with 2 cups of Parmesan cheese. You can buy the already grated, you can buy the fancier stuff and grate it yourself. I am a big believer in reading some ingredients because sometimes Parmesan and things like that, especially shredded cheese, can have potato starch and added things to help it not to cake, and that will affect the creaminess of your sauce. So make sure you're going as pure as you can when it comes to cheese and things like that for sauces, or for like baked mac and cheese and things like that. All right, so we've got our cheese in there, and we're just gonna whisk that around. Another thing to note is when you're adding salt in this process, wait until the end, only because the stock's gonna have salt. Your cheese has a little bit of salt, and you don't wanna over salt it because it's really tough to come back from that. All right. So that's doing its thing. It's nice and creamy. It's not too stuck to the bottom. Another chef trick for you. When it comes to cleaning this pot, soak it, leave it overnight, and I promise you, the grits will come out perfectly versus trying to scrub the grits out right after you're done. Just a little tip. A little water in the pot, put it in your sink. The next day, it's going to be the easiest pot you've ever cleaned. So we've got our grits done. We've got our sauce heating up. Our salmon is in the oven along with our desserts. Rebecca, will you please come with the salad?
Yes.
It's in the fridge over here. I kind of already got the salad just a little bit prepped because honestly, I wasn't sure how we were going to be doing on time, but we're doing just fine. Okay, thank you. So we're going to put our grits to the side. And so we have our salad. Let me check the salmon before I talk about that. Oh yeah. You know what? Turn that off. It's good to go. Okay, so we have our salad. One thing I like to do when I'm entertaining is to plate things on platters. If you have a couple of small platters in your repertoire, you can put out the most beautiful food simply, and people are going to go, oh, when did you have time for that? And you just say, oh, days, it's taken days. But we both know that's not true, because now you can make food look super fancy on nice platters. So what I have here on this platter is a little bib lettuce. The bib lettuce is that really cool lettuce that still has the root. Just take the root out, little root ball, pinch that off, spread it out, and we've got some endive. So with endive, you know, it's a fun treat. They carry it at most grocery stores these days. A little something different. And you're basically, you take your endive, cut it in half, and there's this little tiny core that you're gonna want to cut out. So we're gonna cut that core out, like so. It comes out, and then you have these beautiful petals. Now, if you, again, my mind, whenever I touch food, it goes into 5 different places of what I could do with this petal. I could put a little sauce, and it could be a little spoon for an appetizer. They're delicious grilled, you know, in this capacity. I'm kind of obsessed with food, if I haven't told you yet. So we're gonna put our endive like so. We're going to take fresh dill, and instead of chopping it, we're just gonna let it be delicate. It's just beautiful. So we're just gonna pinch it off in little fronds and set that around our lettuce. And the dressing for this is also super duper simple. I mean, it's literally lemon juice and olive oil. You could take this and go to the moon and back. If you wanted to add a little sweetener, you certainly can. You could do all sorts of stuff, but what I like about the salad is the simplicity. We're gonna get the dill, which is gonna go nicely with our salmon. We're gonna have the texture of all the lettuces. We're gonna have the earthiness of the beet. Then we're gonna have those pecans that we made that are nice and seasoned, and they have the sweetness that you may be looking for in a salad. And again, it's got that crunch, lots of texture. When you're making salads, you want the texture. It's a good thing. This salad would also be delicious with a little goat cheese or maybe even diced up brie, like for the creaminess. Yeah, it's your place to explore with that. All right, so we're going to, what did I do with my juicer? There it is. So we've got our handy dandy juicer. How's everybody doing? Good. All right, so we've got our juicer. So we're just gonna do, I'm gonna say that's gonna be plenty. For a salad for two, a half a lemon's gonna do it. Because what we're gonna do now is we're going to add a little olive oil to the picture. So if I have that much, I like to go a little heavier on the olive oil just to take out the tang. I'm just gonna whisk that. Just like so. A little salt. I didn't tell you. All right, now I have. So, a little salt, a little pepper. Again, you could have the salad prepped to this point in your fridge, and then just add your dressing right at the end. This is where if you wanted a little bit of honey or maple syrup or anything sweet in your dressing, you would add at this point. Or what about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard? That works. You could do that too. All right, so we're gonna drizzle our salad dressing around our lettuce, delicious. The pepper just makes it look so beautiful. And then I'm gonna put on the glove. And we're gonna garnish off with some of our beets. It's gonna go on our salad. Okay. Yeah, so now we've got our beets on there. Delicious. All right. Check for the heat on that, and it's good to go. So you can see as they cool, they start to crumble up. So you're going to just move them around on the pan. Hear that? That's texture. That's delicious. And we're going to crumble. I like to break them up a little bit. It's so loud, you can hardly hear me talk over it. All right, and then we're going to garnish a little bit more with those beautiful cinnamon coated pecans with a bit of sugar. And that's that. Again, see, you've got these leftovers and you can just store those in an airtight container. Good for like 7 days or so. All right, our sauce for our salmon. Just a bit. We don't need this anymore. So now we're going to present the food. And this is my favorite part of the day. I'm going to tidy up just a bit. We have our salad here. We are going to platter up our asparagus and our salmon on the same platter. If you wanted to put your grits in a bowl by themselves and then the rest for your polenta, make it your own. But I like to put the salmon over the creamy polenta or grits, depending on which side of the country you're from. And that way you kind of got the creamy texture of the grits with the salmon on the top. We're going to put al dente asparagus around the edge and actually remove this guy. And that up. Do we have any questions or any comments? No? Okay. Sounds good. See, actually, we're going to plate the dessert first because I don't want the salmon to get cold. So,
Comment looks delicious.
excellent. Thank you. All right. So we have our pears here, and we are going to just put those out onto our dish. Like so. We are going to drizzle just a little bit of maple syrup into this little pan sauce that we kind of made with our roasting the pears. Stir it around. And we're just going to put that on the plate. And I will say this dish would be delicious with whipped cream, a little ice cream, hot out of the oven. Really good. I'm not putting any on the top because I like the crunch. There's a nice texture on the top of this, and then the insides are nice and tender. So I like to put any kind of sauce I'm doing kind of on the side. And this is where that orange comes in. And let's see, we moved my cutting board, so we're just gonna lightly, let's do it the right way. And just kind of a all around drizzle. Here's that. And then we're gonna garnish with a little bit more of our hazelnuts on the plates. Shabam. That's a done deal. Towel here to clean up around the edges. Another pro tip to make you look like you've really been in the kitchen slaving all day long. Okay. And there are your stuffed pears and your salad. Now for the grand finale, we are going to do, I'm looking for a spatula, I'm realizing I'll be able to use some tongs. Now you're gonna get to see how good I am live. All right, so we've got a little more platter left. And we've got our creamy grits here. And they're gonna go out onto the plate. Oh my God, they're really cheesy. Really cheesy. So go in two little, like so. My sauce is really happy over here, just dancing in the pan. Let's turn the heat off. Oh my, that's cheesy. And turn it up. See how this is here. Take our salmon out. We did get a little bit on the side. And you know what? If that happens, where you just have a little, oopsie, no one has to see that. You just take that right off. And it's beautiful because we're going to put sauce on it. So, that's down there. Take our tongue. And there. On the top. Rebecca and I are going to be eating a delicious meal, and I hope you will be as well. I hope this is going well for you at home. If you're not creating this dish as we speak, that you might find some inspiration to do something similar at your house. Okay. So we've got our salmon on top of our creamy polenta. And we have this beautiful red sauce. You could serve this on the side if you like. See if I can get that in more view there. Let's see, what do you think? Should we put it on top? Should we drizzle it around? I don't know. You could put it on the plate. Let's see, you could drizzle some there in that little hole, some over on that little hole. So much fun. It's like art class all over again. Boom. Just a little thing on the top too. All right. You know, the only thing this is missing is bread and butter, in my opinion. And I might suggest that you add that to your meal if you are serving your loved ones or yourself, because that's just as important. Get this little road guy out of there. All right, so that's what we have. That is a holiday meal. Any questions or? Let's see. Do you have a suggestion for that?
No, I was gonna say, you said it that way, you can
Oh,
still
yeah, you
see.
can
There you
see.
go. 1, 2, 3.
Lovely.
So beautiful to see them together. Oh my goodness.
There you go.
That's amazing.
So that is my jam. This is what makes me the most happiest. It's my comfort space. I really want to say thank you for having me and for letting me share my love for food. And yeah, are there?
Yes, so thanks for making asparagus more interesting. And it is, it's beautiful.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. It's asparagus is fun. I mean, if you're not into asparagus though, you could always do broccoli. That would also be a nice green thing. Sauteed spinach would go nicely with this meal. Yeah, it's endless. Food is endless. It's one thing that has a lot of room to grow and explore. So